Hey, everybody. Your friendly hospitality Glenn here. I'm so excited you could join us. This is going to be a good one. I want to welcome everyone to the latest Hotel Business Hot Topics virtual panel series. This is so much fun being able to do this with you guys throughout the year. I'm Glenn Haussman, and I'm going to be moderating today's session. You might know me from No Vacancy Live, No Vacancy News, and all of that. But one of the cool things is I get to work with my friends over at Hotel Business, helping to educate, empower, and inform all of you out there. So today we're going to be talking about a topic that's really near and dear to my heart, the power of branded partnerships. We all know how crucial brands are. We all know that a brand is very symbolic of everything you do, everything you say, everything that you are, in cases of us that have personal brands, for example. So to thrive in this topsy-turvy operating environment, right? Hoteliers are really searching deep in their toolkits for better success strategies. And one ways they're doing that is really partnering with genuine brands and the resources they provide. So today we're going to talk a little bit about pairing up with the right brands, how hoteliers are increasing revenue through doing that, while also taking a look at the general operations environment and some of the different stakeholders that are all here today. So we got a great one, like I said, for you today. Let me introduce the panelists today. We have Matt Hostetler, as Chief Development Officer with Red Roof. Robert Goad, he's Senior Vice President of Revenue Strategy with Red Roof. And Robert, a big welcome to you to the Red Roof family. And this is the first time I get to work with you, so I'm excited about that. Heather Carnes, who's going to be providing a HOA's perspective today. She's a great executive over there. And we also have a Red Roof franchisee. I'd love for you all to welcome Mayuri Patel here today, going to be joining us. And of course, what session would be complete without the incredible Bruce Ford, a partner at Lodging and Econometrics, which has all the important statistics that you out there are utilizing to make some decisions. So let's go with this format real quick. We're going to be here till the top of the hour. It's a 1 hour long sessions. And you out there, we can talk and talk and talk. You can tell that by this introduction already, but we want to get to the answers that you need. So ask us questions, participate in that way, and I'll make sure to get them in and ask our incredible panelists those questions. Also, we're going to have a great wrap up in the November issue of Hotel Business Magazine, which you can find in your mailbox on hotelbusiness.com and of course on social media. Additionally, it's going to be available on demand online, and I'll be running it as a special audio version on the No Vacancy Podcast Network. I want to thank the great folks over here at Red Roof for today's panel discussion. Woo! Let's get this show started, guys. I hope everyone's doing today. You all ready to have a good conversation over here?
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
Yeah. All right, Matt. Let's start with you. So I want to get right into it. How do you think about brand value specifically, and how it applies to you in your working life?
Brand value is everything, specifically when you're in a franchise world. If you don't know by now, you're going to find out shortly. Red Roof is in 50 years. We're celebrating 50 years in the hospitality business, Glenn. You know that. You were at our national convention. The whole panel knows that. So now we're letting the world know that we're celebrating 50 years. And, throughout 50 years, you build on your brand value, but you have to have a vision. So, Red Roof and its leadership has taken our founder, James Truman's vision and expounded upon it over the years. And that's to provide the best experience and the value in the lodging industry for our guests, owners, team members, our partners, and our communities. So if you dissect that for a little bit, there's a lot going on. And everybody in that lineup is very important in creating your brand and building your brand and making sure that your brand stands the test of time. And 50 years, we seem to be doing a pretty good job through leadership over the years. I mean, the people that you see on this call today from Red Roof were not with Red Roof 50 years ago. So, and in 50 years from now, the brand will continue to thrive with new leaders as well. So there's a lot of programs that we can talk about. Obviously, with Robert on the call, he can speak to some of them, like our Revenue Optimizer program. We can talk about our Ready Sales program. We can talk about our award-winning marketing programs, building value. So there's a lot of conversation in the next 55 minutes we can have.
That's for sure. We're going to keep it loosey goosey. We want you guys to ask the questions that are most important to you. But Heather, you're out there. Your whole organization is about smart partnerships with other brands. How do you see the importance of powerful branded partnerships?
Yeah, so here representing 20,000 hoteliers across the nation, the one thing that we hear over and over, the most important aspect in terms of partnership, relationships. And we
Hmm.
know this to be true in the industry. We know the hospitality industry is built on relationships, but when it comes to finding the right brand partner and when it comes to AHOA members and really choosing who they're going to do business with, it comes down to strong relationships and to knowing that you have a brand that's going to be supportive of you as a unique and individual entrepreneur, and in really encouraging and lighting the flame for these entrepreneurs to pursue their dreams and really owning hotels and owning businesses. So it comes down to support and, most importantly, true relationships that matter, that are impactful. And you know that these folks are just a phone call away. So that's the resounding thing that I hear over and over again from AHOA members. It's all about relationships.
Right, that's so important. Mayori, I mean, you've got a whole business that depends on a healthy relationship. How important is it to you to have a relationship with organizations as Red Roof, but others in general?
So brand specific Red Roof, obviously I'm a franchisee there. They're phenomenal to communicate with and readily available and responsive in a timely manner, which is
Mhm.
really important as a franchisee, because if you have a problem, you want somebody to be able to assist you. And the nice thing is everybody, upper tier included, is readily accessible, which is not true of all brands, but a lot of the brands try to do that.
Right.
So they offer the communication part is key, because if you don't have that, you're not going to be able to succeed in the franchise environment.
Right, that's for sure. Now, Bruce, this is an interesting time in hospitality. You and I were just at the lodging conference, and I feel like we've both been on the road for weeks and weeks and weeks, talking to owners, talking to developers, really getting a good sense to what's on there right now. I'm starting to sense a shift, Bruce, from a lot of new builds to conversions when it comes to development out there, right?
So, for certain, Glenn, and thank you again for inviting me today. It's fair to say that branding has really kind of hit a big revolution. Since
Mhm.
2016, we now have had 147 new brands be announced and/or premiere new product in the United States.
Oof.
And that is an unprecedented growth curve um, that has sustained through the pandemic. It's not at the pace that it was pre-pandemic, but we are still seeing new brands, and many companies are continuing to try and spread their wings, if you will, through their value proposition, offering multiple chain scales as well as multiple product types in those multiple chain scales, and continuing to kind of leverage not just the business to business relationship, but the business to consumer relationship, again, which is both unique out there in the business today. And I'm sure we're going to talk more about that. But branding is on the move. We continue to see more brands come into the picture and continue to see those brands coming into quote mid-scale and economy, but also still in the luxury and upper upscale space too. So really all over the board.
Yeah, it really is all over the board. But Robert, it's really great when you have that strong brand. And for someone in your role, when it comes to revenue generation, that's really essential to being able to connect with customers in the right way that gets you to look at the value proposition that you're offering at hopefully a higher ADR if you didn't have the brand behind you. How do you see it? And what's it like getting started working with the good folks over at Red Roof?
I no, so I really appreciate the introduction. Red Roof's still new to this family, but I was excited to be a part of a regional meeting last week where
Mhm.
many AHOA members I've worked with in the past were there with us as well. And to see that family continue here into Red Roof is a really powerful statement about the value that Red Roof as a brand brings to the industry. As a new member of the revenue optimization team, we have
Yep.
some really exciting programs that we really dive into as deep as we can for our franchise owners, finding ways to take away away some of those responsibilities, those tasks that can be easily overlooked or forgotten. When you're standing at the front desk, there's so
Right.
many distractions, from the phone to your customers, who are the most important thing you should be focused on at that time. And so for us, we have an incredibly talented group of revenue managers in the revenue program that consistently, week after week, month after month, show share increases over those properties that do not have our services. We really focus on what we can do to drive
Yeah.
that value both to the brand and to the individual owner themselves.
Yeah, Mayuri, my guess is you utilize programs like this because you're an expert at operating your business, right? You've got that down pat, but sometimes the intricacies of trying to figure out revenue management month to month, day to day, and these days seemingly hour to hour could consume your entire time, right? So how are you able to leverage some of the opportunities a brand like Red Roof gives you?
One of the really great tools that Red Roof offers to all the franchisees is they have this unique platform in which, as an owner, I can go on and get my details and revenue information live. It's fairly live, and it's very, very detailed comparatively.
Right.
That enables us to look at it. If you're a savvy owner, you're able to optimize that way. And if you have the time, if you have management in place and your own revenue manager, but if you don't, you have the option to utilize the brand's programs that they have available for us. And they do optimize because they can show it to us through the numbers they have. And they do that periodically. They break down what's available, how it profits your particular property, but how it profits the brand in general.
Right.
I think a lot of people do have that in place. And if they don't, they should.
Right. Heather, how is your constituency out there utilizing, different brands, tools out there?
Right. So when it comes to utilizing tools, I mean, it goes across the spectrum, right? So everything from looking at a brand for the value that it brings to the table, right? And knowing that that's going to be the best partnership for them, that the brand sees them as an individual, is one of the most important things that I continue to hear too, is that, every entrepreneur is different. Every entrepreneur
Right.
has different tools that they need to use in their toolkit, right? So it's just making sure, in terms of the suite of things that you're providing to entrepreneurs, you have to recognize first and foremost that each entrepreneur, each hotelier is completely unique. They're at
Right.
different stages of their entrepreneurial journey. So what someone coming into the market, their needs and what they're going to look for in terms of a brand partnership is going to be very, very different from hoteliers who are decades into their career. We're seeing this especially now too with second and third generation hotel owners. Their needs are completely different from what their parents' needs were a few generations ago. So the best thing, and I mean, it's kind of, the answer is everything, is you have to make sure that you are catering to the different types of hotel owners and making sure that you really do have a tool in the toolkit for every single issue that they're going to need to solve. Because again, everyone is completely different and requires different resources and different ways to reach their goals.
You're totally right. Every hotelier is completely different. And that's why we want you guys to be able to ask some questions out there to meet your needs. So make sure that you send us a question. But Heather, on that note, it's like that first generation of a HOA member that came over here. Their needs was to feed their family and claim a stake here in the United States, right? Then all of a sudden, the sky's the limit for their children and their children's children, and their needs, their desires and goals have been completely different. So where some folks may be completely satisfied and happy looking at every single element of a single property, others are looking to be more entrepreneurial, open more hotels, invest in other asset classes as well, which means they need those tools more than ever. But Matt, it's not just about tools. It's right there above your head. Genuine relationships, real results, right? How do you think about meeting the individual needs of all of these hoteliers out there? And how are you able to do that? Because I can't even do that around my dinner table, trying to give everyone their individual needs.
Well, it's what we've been given is 2 ears and one of these.
Yeah.
And the more we listen to our franchisee customer, the better off we are. They have like complete accessibility to our teams. I mean, if you check the website, Red Roof Franchising, you'll see my mug and my contact information. So we're readily available. Mayuri's in my phone. I'm in her phone. So it's really about listening to our franchisee and their needs and working with them in their various whatever franchisee it may be, like you said, a different need. It's important for us to connect internally, whether it be revenue management, operations, design and construction, all of these various tools and departments that come along with our people to help them succeed. The more successful our franchisee base becomes, the more they want to succeed with us in other locations. When my tenure started in 2014, so yes, I'm coming up on 10 years
10 years.
10 years of genuine relationships, creating real results with this group. And I'm very excited about what we've done over those 10 years, doubling the units out there. And we had a handful of multi-unit owners. Now we have fistfuls of them. So that's really a true testament to the company, its mission statement, the leadership and the ownership of the company, to be completely transparent, listening to our franchisee advisory council, and then going back to work.
Yeah, Bruce, I like how he ended there talking about the franchise advisory council, because one of the things I've noticed over a number of years is the hoteliers want to get involved a lot more, right? They don't just see it as I'm gonna put this flag on my building, right? So what are you seeing as some of the owners' challenges out there right now that powerful brands can really help with?
Well, there's no question technology plays a big part in this, Glenn. We're having a technology conversation on all this technology right now.
That's
the
right.
difference in the way we can function post-pandemic is really going to be pretty revolutionary in the business. You and I have sat back and said 10 years ago, man, I wish we could more tech out the hotel rooms more. I wish we could tech out the front desk more. Well, the pandemic brought a lot of that to bear, simply because jobs could no longer exist at the property level. They needed to be optimized and available online, and we're doing it. Okay. And that technology goes really kind of up and down the building itself, but it's also communication between the franchise company and the franchisees, communication between the franchisees and their potential third-party management company. The circle is closed pretty quickly and really efficiently throughout the pandemic. And it's been a big part of the next generation's integration into the business, because when you and I got in the business, Glenn, key cards were just becoming a thing.
They sure
Flat panel
were.
televisions were just becoming a thing.
The stress I used to have about losing the physical key and keeping it on me was almost too much to bear.
So it's now, when I'm at my hotel here, I just used my phone to get in. Okay. So, I mean, that's just how fast and far that has come. I think that, the pandemic, one of the great results is technology is really going to take a firmer hold in the business, because we've always been old school. I mean, one thing in the hotel business, it has to work, because it's constantly going to be repeated and repeated and repeated and repeated. And I think some of the pandemic good results have been a real technology surge forward.
It absolutely has set the stage. One of the things that we've been saying since the beginning of the pandemic era is this is going to take like a stretch that would have been 10 years and compact it down into 3 years with the acceleration of technology. And we are getting questions in. We'll get to those in a minute, but keep sending them in. One place, though, that I'm really seeing technology more involved, Heather, is at your AHOA annual conference. Over the last 10 years, it almost feels like it's becoming a tech show in a certain way. Why are you seeing so much of a growth in that sector at your events, do you think?
Yeah. And you guys probably have heard of the AHOA Tech Pitch competition. We actually did it in partnership with HFTP.
I may have been a judge at the last one.
Exactly, right? Little familiar there, Glenn. And we've been for the past several years, and it's really because of where we're at, not only in the industry, but where we're at really in the history of humankind. The acceleration of technology, the acceleration of AI is really happening at a pace that we've never seen before. And because of the pandemic, and to the point made earlier of really needing to accelerate this in order to meet really customer demands and what expectations are in order to lower costs in running the business, I mean, it is absolutely necessary. I know the industry has said for so long, okay, we've always been so far behind. So it's like we're really being forced to play catch up. So AHOA has taken an intent focus on shining the spotlight on technology in many ways. We as an association are embracing technology with really building a lot of our own systems currently and things like that too. But When it comes down to it, there's such a breakthrough of innovative companies out there, and really getting them in front of hoteliers to solve their issues, to solve the day-to-day issues, has been paramount. We know that's one of it's a huge ingredient in the secret sauce for success moving forward, is to be able to understand and adopt these technologies.
All right. And Robert, speaking of technology, you notice your title is SVP Revenue Generation. So it's very much further than revenue strategy, which was a big maturation from just revenue management. So my guess is you're not just thinking about trying to get the best price on any single night. Revenue generation means much more. How are you seeing that in the context of the technological leaps we've been taking?
Yeah, I can't think of a week that goes by when there's not a tech ditch. There's so much
Right.
that's going on in the industry right now, and it's moving really, really fast. The one thing I would say from a technology perspective is it absolutely is going to change the way that we look at, manage, change pricing on a day-to-day basis. But also when it comes to distribution costs, what we can do to help lower those costs for our owners, for our partners, for our franchisees is at the forefront of anything that we do on any given day. With that said, though, hospitality is hospitality. The industry is still the same when it comes to the foundation. Red Roof continues to remain true to our vision. We look at data before we push forward. We are really proud of going through these new pieces of technology, doing a deep dive on behalf of the entire brand to figure out who are those best partners as we push forward, what we can help recommend and implement across the entire brand, but then also using customer research, making sure that we're not creeping too far into the amenities and just keeping those brand standards that we know our customers are really looking for intact while we continue this evolution into the future.
I like that you bring up amenity creep, and companies lose track of that all the time because they get distracted by saying, what does the customer want, as opposed to what do they actually need. And if you ask somebody what they want, they'll tell you they want something. What do you need, people are like, I'm fine. And Red Roof is one of those brands that have been successful by making sure only the essentials are there, and that comes with technology as well. So Mayuri, when you're thinking about technologies that Red Roof has, what are some of the key things that you're thinking about? I'm guessing it's got to be easy to use and quick to adopt,
Right. So I like the education portion where they show us the technology in advance and make sure it's easy to use, because as an owner, you don't have time to try to figure this stuff out. And a lot of owners face the fact that it's multi-generational. So okay, what I might understand might be different than what my father might understand.
Oh,
And
you should see me try to get my mom to do anything on the computer. It's like it's a yelling within 2 minutes. It's not good.
well, and that's my point exactly, right?
Yeah.
So like
The
what I
button
can
is right there. Push the button. I don't see a button. It's right there.
right there. And
Sorry,
so
I'm having a flashback. Yeah, sorry.
But we've all had those, right? So like, I'm like, okay, just go here, just do that. But the point is, if you're able to look and use technology, that's the only time it's useful. If you don't understand it, it's not going to work for you. And using the technology in the many ways that are available, one of the things I think as an industry, we can definitely do work on is using not only for revenue generation, but putting out, back in the olden days, and I'm going to say this because I've been in the industry, believe it or not, before they had computers. I remember people quitting because we got computers and they're like, nope, I'm not going to learn that. I refuse. Yeah, we lost 3 desk clerks. I had to work shifts because my dad was like, sorry, they won't work with it. Go,
Yeah.
So when all of that comes out and everything, back then you had a lot of advertising and push for the brand, and the technology portion is great and it's keeping up with everything, but the push is going to need to move forward a little more because it's changed on how our consumers are reaching us, right? So that the brands are kind of learning a different method. Before it was TV and print and whatever, and now it is, who's on TikTok and who's using Instagram and all of that, and it's a different way to reach your market base. And you're also working against competitors like Airbnb. They're not part of the brands, but they kind of are, because if it's not in my franchise agreement, I can go contract with them separately. Do you know what I mean? And still sell hotel rooms. And they do that actually in places.
I never heard of that before.
No,
Really?
Florida. Yeah, in Florida, I was down there maybe a year ago, and in Florida, there are certain hotels that just contract with Airbnb, and then
Oh,
they rent out their rooms that way. But they also have a market where they advertise. Now they're a third party, right? But they're banned in New York, so you have to. And this is where the franchise comes in helpful because I can't keep track of every law in every state. I'm more worried about my
right,
state.
right.
But the brand, they look at no matter what brand it is, they're looking at what's good universally across the states and then what works for you individually in your state. So they have to juggle that and do the marketing that way. But it is helpful technology wise that to do that.
Yeah, and you actually set us up for a perfect segue when you were talking about Airbnb and the move and changing in the way brands are. Great question. How have soft brands changed the way brands are working with hotels? So, Bruce, you and I lived and breathed this, and I know you've got a good segment that you could just talk to about why these are so important. Because ever since they came on the radar in 2009 with the first brand that went that way, everyone now has them. They seem to become a valuable tool, even for our good friends at Red Roof.
Well, it's a cultural shift, Glenn. It's a
Yep.
generational shift. When I go to Nashville, I want to feel like my hotel says Nashville, not necessarily that it says whatever brand it is on the door. So I want to feel it to be localized, to be designed in a local way, to feel like it operates in a local way. And then the soft brand coming on top of that, offering the owner greater flexibility through technology to be able to offer, not a traditional looking product, but yet a reservation system that can put it through a traditional booking process, and making that kind of part of what the brand family is doing. It's
Hmm.
key that you're doing it in the segments that you're already doing it, so that you're kind of manifesting on your average guest, if you will. So if he's inclined to be at your price point, you're offering something that's a little bit above that to get that local flavor, if you will, and local consistency, if you will. And soft brands are certainly part of that 147, maybe 25 or 28 of them of the 147 were ultimately kind of a soft brand concept
Hmm.
that have been premiered over the past 8 years.
Yeah, for sure. And Matt, we got another question in there. They want to know a little bit more about how you're doing soft branding, and that would be through the Red Collection, right?
Yeah, you're right, and Bruce put it very well. I mean, the soft brand helps you build that local experience. You're not going to Nashville to stay.
Hmm.
You're going to Nashville to experience what Nashville has to offer.
Right.
The wonderful music and the settings of the various different lodging opportunities that are out there. So with the Red Collection, we've done that in Orlando. We're getting ready to do it in Tampa again the Spot
Hmm.
X with the Spot X local flair. And then in Virginia Beach, Costa Azul, phenomenal
Ooh.
property. I mean, it's just, and it has that beach flair. It's in cities and destinations and neighborhoods where you want to be. So, we come up and down the coast a little bit, Virginia Beach, and now up in Portsmouth. So, we're slowly building that. We're not building it to, I guess, take market share and bring it all to Red Roof. We're building it with the franchisees that are with us that have opportunities that want to go into cities or destination markets and drive a higher ADR whenever that season is in. Because in
Hmm.
some cases, you look at brands and you get a little rate halt, if you will, in some cases, right? You have a ceiling, and that's a revenue management conversation, not a Matt conversation. But if you're looking at star reports and all that sort of thing, it is what it is. I mean, everybody knows
Yeah.
about the Swift effect, right? So that can happen
Mhm.
anywhere.
1% of hotels' profits are coming from Taylor Swift concerts
Yeah, we
this year.
wondered who was going to bring up Taylor Swift first. Was
And
it
how
going
much did they round
to
up on
be
that one?
Robert, or was it going to be right?
Look, we know the rates that that hoteliers have been getting wherever she plays. I really hope she plays the Haussman Resort Pool Club and Smokehouse someday, because I'll be getting those prime rates at my house. But Heather, it's interesting because I've seen the AHOA community kind of shift to a lot of these things. And one of the areas that I think that maybe Matt didn't touch on is sometimes it would be great for like it wouldn't be perfect for a red roof, but it's that same kind of feeling that taps into that same type of guest, right? So gives hoteliers more opportunity to work with different brands and take a little bit more independent minded set too, right?
Yeah, if that's back at me,
Yeah, it was. I think Heather froze.
but
So
oh yeah,
Matt,
she
why
is a
don't you
little.
go for that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's very frozen right now.
Mhm.
So yeah, so it's one of those things where, and again, I go back to the market share. We don't want to put the soft brand on top of the Red Roof Plus or the Red Roof or the Hometown Studios for that matter. We want to put it in the right location with the right franchisee. In a lot of cases, where we are, the owner has both in the same market, so it allows them to get both customers that are coming in and out of that destination type market. So and again, I go back to in introducing brands to markets just to introduce brands to continue to get market share. We've been indexing pretty well with Red Roof over the last 10 years, and we're very proud of that. We're constantly over 100% as a brand in our markets. So the soft branding had become more advantageous and opportunistic for us. So we're going to slowly grow it in the right markets and do the right thing for our franchisee base.
Yeah. So Heather, I've never seen someone try to dodge a question before in that manner. So
I was going to say, speaking of technology, I think that was perfectly planned.
I
But yeah,
know.
thank goodness for hotspots, right?
Yeah, for exactly. So for those of you listening to the audio feed, Heather lost her internet signal, has now managed to sign back on, and I see some more questions coming through. But I want Heather to ask how the HOA community in general is thinking about soft branded hotels as another one of those valuable tools in the toolkit.
Absolutely. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to answer this question before the internet broke out. To me, this and from what I hear and talking to all of our members, it's about innovation, right? It's obviously it's answering what the customers want, but also in the mind of a hotelier too, this gives you an extreme level of opportunity to flex the innovative muscle to truly make something into something that feels like it's your own. So I think it's obviously it's two ways. You're meeting demands of customers while at the same time satisfying really, deep down inside of being an entrepreneur and be able to have that extra creativity to localize your product and to really make it into something that is unique and only to you. So I think it really checks a lot of boxes.
Yeah,
That's
it really.
beautifully said, Heather.
Yeah, I was to say it also really has that spirit of you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself that we hear so much. It's a really a nice kind of a balance there. All right, so the next question we have is really getting at it. How can brands help with labor problems? Bruce, what are some of the things that you're seeing out there in that regard? And then we'll get to some of the Red Roof folks.
Well, the industry is still has not hired back the employees in full force that they had prior to the pandemic. And there's been a little bit of a push and pull over the past 6 to 8 to 9 months as the interest rates have climbed and travel has been coming back. But is it really all the way back? Are we 80% back? So the hoteliers are kind of trying to balance some of that hiring, but the cost of acquiring employees is expensive. It's always been expensive. And I think hotels for the first time are really kind of feeling the brunt of that because they're an operating asset is almost has new positions open that otherwise would have been filled during normal times where they have to fill a position that is key to taking that next step. It's like we have all of these bookings for our conventions in January and February and March, and we're going to need 20 more people to be able to service all of that. How are we going to get those 20 people? Those are real concerns out there in the industry today. And restauranting and hoteling have, become more expensive to acquire employees. And there's no question about that. It's the growth of those online staff. And I think it's why many hoteliers have sought to take some jobs out of the property and put them into a remote job. I mean, we have more people working in management companies today in a remote way than ever before, simply because the technology has propped that job up that it can be done remotely. But HR probably still isn't one of those things. Ultimately, because you're going to report to the hotel, you still have to have some on-site HR functionality. And I think that is an expensive task for hotels because they haven't really had to have a hiring department,
Yeah.
but they may be facing that right now inside of some of these organizations.
Yeah, and Robert, in a minute, I'd love for you to address that topic of lifting things off that property level again. But I want to get, I want to get Mayori's perspective on the labor issue. What are you currently going through, and what kind of hope what kind of assistance can the brands offer you, either directly or indirectly through programs?
Well, right now, honestly, for most franchisees, the labor workforce is difficult because the labor workforce has changed, right?
Right.
It's not the type of individuals that were applying before, and the expectations are a lot higher and sometimes difficult to fulfill because we can't compete with like even Walmart. The greeter at Walmart is going to make
Right.
the same amount and they're going to get benefits and everything. And
Right.
it's hard to provide all of that as a franchise, hotel owner. So you're competing against a much tougher market. And then the younger generation has very different expectations. And the best example I can give is my daughter called me the other day and said, I think I'm going to take a mental health day. How many
Yes.
of you had heard of that before? Right. And I was like, what are you thinking? And she's like, oh, I'm just stressed out. I'm like, are you crazy? Like, what? But that's the reality of today's workforce. And you have to be flexible and be willing to work with it. So that presents challenges because in the hotel industry, it's going to be hard for me if my housekeeping decides all of them to take different mental health days and stuff like
Right.
that. I might suffer a little bit there. But in addition to that, the workforce is it almost seems difficult to get them. So like the brand could help maybe by giving resources. I tap into believe it or not, I tap into hotel training schools where people are coming out with degrees and stuff like that. And I recently tried to get an intern to be a manager. So like things like that, resources where they could maybe set up co-ops or something.
Yeah.
And then, that's just an idea that I'm throwing out here. No, but I mean, different things like that where they might be able to assist in that manner and kind of give an idea of what the norm is, standardized norms, because every state is facing different realities when it comes to it. But I don't know of any state that the labor workforce is going splendidly for everybody. And then
no, right. I've heard it's even more difficult in smaller towns because there's just a much fewer people to pull from. Yeah, so please continue, Mayori.
Yeah, and no, I was saying like, training kind of in that way, teaching the franchisee options and how to maintain, and you're decreasing the turnover rate because when you have a huge turnover rate, you're losing a lot of money in training and things like that. And there are different non-financial, like, intangible assets you can provide as an owner to retain your employees, which we've been doing for years so that our turnover is very low.
Right.
And
Could you give us an example of something that you do?
So like we treat our employees like family. So we tell them constantly, like if there's a problem and you have a problem with your house, like I've replaced water heaters for 5 employees over the course of like 3 hotels, because they broke down, they couldn't come in, and like they needed a water heater. And it was a struggle for them and they couldn't afford it. And they didn't have, how are you going to shower? And stuff. So things like that. Also with my knowledge base, I can help them doing budgeting and stuff, which I know seems ridiculous, but some people need help with that.
Well, no, we're not taught that. We go to school and we're not taught life essentials a lot of times.
Exactly. And so like I help somebody get out of a loan quicker because I understand interest rates and loans. So they saved like 10 years because I restructured their loan for them. That's an intangible benefit, right?
Yeah.
And so she will never leave my property. And she said as much because I just saved her on that. And I'm a available resource in those ways. So I think like if you offer intangible benefits like that, you're going to be able to retain because they feel valued, and feeling valued is the most important thing.
And we've seen studies time and time again. It's not just about the money that you make. It's about how you feel. It's about the community of people you work with that makes it a place to be and to consider family. You're with these people more than you're with family. So, Robert, let's get to you. How are you helping alleviate the labor crisis when you're thinking about, the Red Roof level?
Yeah, absolutely. From my background, actually, I was a partner in one of the largest hotel management companies in the country, and local labor was always one of the biggest challenges. Nori, I absolutely understand that challenge. We faced it on a daily basis. I'm thrilled, though, from a brand perspective here at Red Roof, there are incredible tools that the brand can provide back to the franchisees to help them with those tasks, those opportunities that don't need to be conducted at the local level. For us here at Red Roof, of course, our revenue management program is incredibly successful and helpful. But in addition to that, Ready Sales, we bring in some of the top talent across the country. It doesn't have to be someone in the local market providing that local sales assistance. We can bring the best in at the brand level and help properties as they need it during the course of the year. And also, I think one of the really unique features when it comes to accounts today, we've got a really successful program called Ready Bill. It helps those accounts, the sales accounts that really need that centralized billing process taken care of. It takes that accounting need away from the hotel front desk. You think about those general managers you're trying to bring on board, the turnover rates that are today, the talent pool that exists. So anything that we can do at the brand level to bring that to somewhere outside of that local business, to bring the best of the best talent that may be remote, may work from different zip codes, different area codes across the country, different time zones, but we know that we can bring in the best talent to do everything possible to help our franchisees.
Yeah, and that's the same thing. Flexibility on all levels when you've got to meet the people where they are in order to be more successful. Heather, I'm curious as to what you're thinking about in the organization because you're doing much more than just talking about labor. You're out there, you're making change, and it's nice to see the community has changed so much. It used to be just have kids and make them work in the hotel, right? And that would handle the labor crisis. Now they're up owning all these hotels. So how are you helping make sure that there's plenty of employees out there that maybe even see a track to their own career success?
Right, right. Yeah. So, I mean, that's why AHOA exists. And it's to connect our members, one, so they can learn from each other, and two, to offer them resources and connect them with the right folks to help them. So we have a couple of programs. We're actually just announced a new career website in partnership with H Careers. So we have resources that are being built in order to help our members. But really, aside from that, too, it's creating a broader narrative in the industry, and this is something that we've gotten much better at speaking about, is how hospitality is really, the hospitality industry is a home to grow a career. And that's a message that I think all of us in the industry can continue to push forward. So, and I know one of the most famous stories out there was David Kong's, and I still find it so inspirational today to know where he started in the industry and where he ended up and the incredible impact he had. So how do we take these
Well,
stories?
hold on one second. For those who don't know David Kong, he's now the former leader of and CEO of Best Western. He retired after an amazing tenure. He came over to the United States, and I think he worked, his first job was like a busboy or something like that, the Hilton Hawaiian Village in Hawaii, and worked his way all the way up to CEO. But he wasn't the only one. There were so many people that worked their way up to CEO levels at the major brands and major hotel companies and ownership groups that started at that basic level. And somewhere along the way, we lost that kind of magic, Heather. So I'm glad to see you talking about that again.
Yeah, because these are the stories that we need to continue to tell, and that we need to continue to create. How do we create the next generation and wave of stories just like David's and just like so many others, to where when you have employees coming into your property, they know that it's just not a job and that they see a clear path for their growth. And I feel like that's one of the biggest opportunities that we have really as an industry, is to continue that narrative. On top of it, too, as you guys know, we have an incredibly strong presence in Washington, D.C. We actually have our Fall National Advocacy Conference coming up later this month. We're going to be—
Is that like the 24th, 25th or something like that, right?
Yes. And Glenn, I hope to see you there.
I'm working on it.
Some of these other faces, but yeah, so we are going to talk to our elected officials. I mean, this is something that we were talking about on the Hill back in the spring. Really, this has been ongoing since COVID at a really high rate, but we know that this issue preceded COVID as well. So we're having conversations on Capitol Hill, working on visa programs to try to get more workers in the United States. So there's a lot, there's so many different ways to tackle this issue. And I feel like the biggest one really is the narrative around hospitality being a career, because there's so many good stories out there that we need to tell.
Right. And there's a lot of confusion out there in the general public. They think the best job you can get in the hotel industry is general manager. They don't have any concept of the above property ecosystem that exists that we all have found success in. From being chief development officer of a brand, to having a real estate insight company, to being an executive of the largest organization, to determining technology, to owning hotels. It's incredible. But Matt, this is a perfect segue to another question because not everybody got to own hotels before, and you at Red Roof are making sure that everybody can. An attendee is asking, how can brands have an influence on DEI and encouraging more diversity among workers and owners that are out there? I know this is an issue that's true to your heart.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And kudos to whoever asked it out there. I would say thank you. At Red Roof, we feel like we're transformative as well. And a lot of the brands have been involved. And obviously, Heather helped launch her ownership at AHOA. And she's actually been partner with me on RIDE, which is Road to Inclusivity and Diversity in Entrepreneurship. We not only just came out of Dallas with a brand meeting for our West Coast in Dallas, Texas. Mm-hmm. But we also had
yes, you were there.
For our She Leads program, where our chief marketing officer, Marina McDonald, put on a tremendously successful, day and a half, if you will, seminar for women in leadership and ownership. And it's very important to us, like at Red Roof, because we have 66% of our senior leaders, and we're that diverse. We have 35+% women owners at Red Roof, owners of hotels. So I wanted to take that next level, as everyone knows I always say, and move it into the DE&I. And I'm very proud to say that we've launched RIDE. It's starting to make some good headway, where not only we want to diversify our franchisee base, we want to continue to diversify our vendors, our vendor relations, and all of the people that we do business with, because we know that everyone likes to do business with like-minded individuals and people that they know, they like, and they trust. So the more we can diversify, the more opportunity everybody gets, and it'll be more, that's where the community part comes in. And it's very important for us not only to diversify everything that we do, because it'll also diversify into the communities as well.
Yep. And Bruce, this is an issue that's been going around for almost as long as I've been in my career, but I feel like there's been a seminal shift in the last 7 to 10 years. It feels more real. It feels more meaningful. What's your read on DEI and the hospitality industry?
Well, there's no question there's going to continue to be more opportunity to continue to expand the DEI programs in the hotel business. I'm very excited to hear about Red Roof's programs. I know it's very important to Matt, and it's very important to the company. And in fact, where we sit today, what's unique, and I looked back at this the other day, and this may be a stat kind of out of right field, but when I came into the hotel business, the upper mid-scale chain scale didn't exist.
Right.
There was just mid-scale. Okay. And the amount of institutional investor quality hotels or small business investor quality hotels that are branded out there in the industry, that number has grown at a nosebleed pace during my career in the 27 years in the industry. And I think we're going to see some of those hotels become more oriented around individual owners, and some smaller companies beginning to prop up, because what we have seen throughout the pandemic is that bigger is better. But unfortunately, they're not going to be able to hold on to those locations. So there may be some assets that are going to be able to be scooped up by small businesses as a way to kind of restart the family business orientation that so grew the hotel industry. And I see that as a great potential in the next 3 to 4 years as the industry shifts its real estate cycle going forward.
I love that answer, Matt. Go ahead.
Yeah, Glenn, and I just wanted to add too. I mean, I know everybody on the panel here is aware, and there's probably a very large constituency of people that know Lena Patel. And Lena, who was with AHOA as a board member, FAC board member for another brand as well. She wanted to be more. She wanted to take more action in the industry as well. So I got a phone call from Lena one day, and I just asked her what she wanted to do when she grows up, and that's obviously a joke. But She was so aligned with my thinking. It was such a no-brainer for me to not if I didn't figure this out with her, it was never going to get figured out. So she is, Mayori, your daughter's going to take a mental health day. She's taking a mental health 3 weeks. She always goes and climbs the Himalayan mountains. So she's doing that this month, and hopefully when she gets to the top, she's going to have her flags and she's going to show how she's taken Red Roof to the top of the diversity, equity, and inclusion program that we've implemented with RIDE. So I'm very, very proud of my whole team, because that committee is not just Red Roof team members. Like I said, it's a committee of people inside the building and outside the building, helping us drive it forward.
That's an incredible accomplishment that she's doing. My Mount Everest challenge is to get all the way through the wind buffet. That's about as risky as I could take it. Mayori, as a woman hotel owner, it must be great to finally see the next generation not just be taken seriously, but be serious about the hotel business as well.
Yeah, for generations, believe it or not, the women have been involved, but very much so in the
It
background.
always seems like, right. It's like the men were out front saying the decisions that were made collectively behind closed doors. Right.
And there's been a paradigm shift in that, I think, over the last years. And I think generationally, the women are a little more assertive and able to come to the limelight. And I think it's a good thing. And Matt's team has been instrumental, and I think other brands as well, in helping to propel women and diversity in the brands. And it's important because, like, one of the things that's key, like if you're starting out and you don't know, but that's something you want to do, one of the things that they offer is I can come on board as a franchisee before you sign the contract and talk to you and explain to you where I am and what's going on and how it will work for you, how you're going to do your work-life balance, being a single female or, a mom or married or however you may be, and how you're going to be able to work with the brand and maybe some of the things you're not aware of. So prior to even signing, you're getting a good, full, knowledgeable picture, and the women are able to move forward with the support provided. So I think it's a great thing to be able to have that collaborative, because, even like 10 years ago, I didn't have options to have that discussion. I was talking to the men. I'm very much used to being in the man's world.
Right. Yeah. It makes sense. It's great to see it changing. And every year we go to financial conferences, I see more and more women there, and it's a great thing to say. By the way, we got a message that Edelyn Parker Fry says, Heather was amazing at She Forum, and yes, Matt, you were too. So that's good to hear. All right, we got one more good question, then we'll go to wrapping it up over here. But Heather, let me start with you. The audience is asking, what are you doing to create a more equitable, inclusive workplace, and how would you rate your company's initiatives in that?
Yeah, so AHOA is so unique, and it's a really beautiful thing because in so many ways, AHOA represents the fabric of diversity that really runs through the industry. And we are super cognizant here at AHOA in terms of who we have on the team. I personally can say that I've never worked on a more diverse team than I have until I joined AHOA. And just like it applies to every other part of business, the more diversity you have, whether it's men and women, folks from different backgrounds, different countries, whatever that looks like, you are going to see a stronger team and you're going to see stronger results. So when it comes down to it, it's not about really just saying that we're diverse or showing on the website, look, we look diverse. It's really, you have to talk the talk and walk the walk. And this is why I want to bring it back to Red Roof, because I want to point out, I feel like you guys have been very humble, but to my knowledge, I feel like Red Roof is really one of the first brands out there that really took on this women initiative. I mean, I think I heard last week it was over 10 years ago. We know that we've seen really kind of just this explosion really of women empowerment in the industry, which is amazing. There's so many amazing programs out there. There's so much opportunity for women right now than has ever been before. But my hat's off to Red Roof, because you guys truly walk the walk, you talk the talk. You guys have been doing this for over a decade. And I just feel like that just says so much too, that you guys and hoteliers are looking at this stuff. They want to make sure that whatever brands they're partnering with, that it's not a talk, it's not a marketing campaign or a PR campaign. You guys really are living by these values and really offering value to these different types of underserved communities that is making a difference and making the industry better. So hats off to Red Roof for that.
Thank you.
I love it. That's beautiful, Matt.
I'll give the kudos. Our Chief Marketing Officer, Marina McDonald, I believe it was 2016, launched Women in Leadership and Entrepreneurship, and then rebranded it earlier this year as She Leads. So support, help, elevate is what she stands for, and we stand behind, and we'll help her continue to grow that with women and with Ride with the underserved communities.
Beautiful. All right, so let's move into just some final thoughts. Robert, I know you didn't have as much emphasis on that last part of the conversation. So what do you want people to take away when they're thinking about revenue generation and how you think about that?
From a revenue generation perspective, as we push forward into the future, a lot of change is on the way, right? So when it comes to where people live, where people work, how people travel, the industry is very different today than what it was just a few years ago. And adaptability, leaning into what's next, is always going to be at the forefront of what we do from a revenue strategy perspective, especially from the talent that we bring on. I'm thrilled to be able to work with a fully remote team, no matter where they are across the country. I think that that's really important, that work-life balance, finding people who are passionate about what they do in their home community, but also passionate about the job that they're doing on a daily basis. And I feel very, very fortunate that that's the direction we're heading here at Red Roof.
That is beautiful. Mayuri, what about you?
I'm really happy with all the strives. I want to thank AHOA, Red Roof, and all the brands, because they have made a huge difference to all of us moving forward. And, I think the takeaway should be, when you're looking as an owner at a franchise, you need to make sure it's a good fit for you, and take advice from people who are already in the system. Like, call me, call somebody, because, working with different brands over time, we're going to be able to give you some good, helpful advice before you are married to somebody in the brand.
That's a good brand advice and general life advice as well. Heather, how about you?
For me, it goes back to relationships. I mean, I hear it over and over again. Matt, you're a phone call away. There's really something about not feeling like you are a number in a system, and that you're recognized for the unique individual and entrepreneur that you are. So I think that's something that we have to continue embracing as an industry, is how do we, looking at hoteliers, how do we really let them blossom and really, blossom as an entrepreneur, right? And being able to make these creative decisions for their business while really leaning into those relationships too. Knowing that these that folks are a phone call away, right? That you're going to reach a VP or a director, and that you're not going to have to wait for days and days. And that when you call, the phone actually gets picked up. These are positive things that I hear all the time about the Red Roof family in particular. I know you guys pride yourself on relationships. So well done there. And I think that's a huge secret to success, is knowing that you have those strong connections.
Excellent. Now, I normally wouldn't throw out something else from the audience at this point, but Tejal Patel is saying, not a question. Huge shout out to Mayuri and to Heather. Incredible insights from incredible powerhouse women. So I wanted to make sure we got that in. Now, this is the time of the show where Bruce Ford wraps it up into us in a nice little bow. Anything that you want to say about the operating environment or anything else, Bruce?
Yeah, I would just say that, cyclically where we sit today, it's more important to work your partnerships than ever before, as we all get back out into the business again, traveling again, increasing our travel, visiting more people. Never turn down the opportunity for somebody who has sought you out. I always believe in education and assisting people who are new to the industry and bringing them up in a way that they can understand how many really truly different things you can do in the business, from buying real estate to managing it to owning it to servicing it to providing professional services to it. The amount of diversity that you have out there in the industry is pretty unprecedented, and we at Lodging Econometrics continue to assist where we can in helping people understand those diversities. And I'm probably going to speak at 4 or 5 different universities this year. Cool. But in addition, offering my services for something like this is not core to the things we do in terms of research, but my partnership with Red Roof, my partnership with you, Glenn, and my partnership with Hotel Business brought me to the meeting today, and that's what it's all about to me.
Yep, it sure is. Matt, bring us home, baby.
Well, and I want to say thank you to each and every one of the panelists, and a big shout out to Glenn, No Vacancy Podcast. You are all great friends here on the show with us today, and Mr. Gode's going to become a very good friend very fast. The more we spend time together and continue to drive Red Roof forward, and I will say that look around, everybody. See what you drive. It's a brand that you love. See what you wear. You have a brand on. Everything is branded. Trust the brand, right? So whenever you determine what brand you want, whether it's a car, clothing, hotels, food, you know what you like and what you want. Do your homework.
That's right.
We ask everybody that one question. You know, what other brands are you talking to? Who are you looking at? And why do you think this brand or other brands are best in your market? You know, there's plenty of outside services out there, advisory council, meaning like HVS studies, Bruce's company, that will help people get through decision making where it's not just us, the brands, telling you which way to go and make a decision. Because frankly, I would probably push you to my brand, right? But if I do the right thing, I'm going to say, do your homework and make sure that you're studying and making the right decisions, because the brands should say this to you: it's your money. You're at the biggest risk. We have risk, but the money biggest at risk is the franchisees. And we know that at Red Roof. So thank you to everybody that chimed in with us today. Thank you to all the panelists. And Glenn, I love you like a brother.
I love you too, guys. And I love working with each and every one of you. And I thank you out there for joining us today for another incredible hotel business hot topics. It's time in the Power of Branded Partnership, thanks to our amazing friends over at Red Roof. Thanks so much. Remember, you'll be able to catch the replays on hotelbusiness.com. It'll be in the November issue. We'll even run an audio version of it on No Vacancy News if you can't stand the looks of me and Matt. So there we go. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time. Appreciate it. Have an incredible day.